Hey folks, how's it going? This is Professor Shipley again. So we're gonna do a little bit tonight on interest groups, and this is gonna be the more theoretical side of interest groups. So there's some videos that are available on Canvas. We'll come back and take a look at. We'll get some practical examples of groups today, and some of the videos that you'll see, and then we'll get into issues of engagement. For next time, most likely. So, broad sense, the idea of interest groups is fundamental to our understanding of democracy. So, when we talk about the political system in the United States and it filters down to the states, we're usually talking about a pluralist sort of system. And what we mean by pluralism is that we have lots of different groups that are out there. They're composed of people. They are led by leaders of those groups. We'll call them elites, and they engage in a friendly competition to achieve their goals. So, this is how political competition is supposed to happen in modern democracies. You have different organizations and groups that organize around different issues. At the largest level, that's political parties. But you can start to think of all those different groups that are out there. The American Association of Retired People working for the interest of old folks, the NRA working for the interest of gun owners, AAA working for the interest of automobile owners and travelers. So all these different interest groups are out there. They can be formal, they can be informal, but they are all composed of people. They draw strength from the number of people that they have. They're organized by leaders, and they're engaged in this competition to see who is going to be able to win out. So, when we talk about these groups, what we're really talking about is organization around what we'll call collective action. So, when we talk about a group, we have a group that is in pursuit of something, and we call that something that they are in pursuit of the common good. And this can be called the collective good, the social good, the common benefit. There's lots of different names that you'll hear for this, but it's the same core idea. It's the idea of the common good. There is something that the group can achieve that cannot be restricted. The idea of the common good is that it's for everybody. So if the NRA is successful, it's not just them, the NRA members, that have extended gun rights. It's everybody. Whether you want to go buy a gun or not, the NRA has made it so that it is easier for you to be able to do so. Whether you pay your dues to AARP, when you get to retirement age, boy howdy, that seniors discount at the restaurant or the movie theater or whatever else is there waiting for you, whether you're a member of the group or not. So the common good is what it is that the group is working towards. People can form groups for all sorts of different reasons. We call those folks policy entrepreneurs or social entrepreneurs. Just like business entrepreneurs, they're the ones who have good ideas. They organize around it. They try to encourage people to belong to that group, to buy the product, to join the group, to promote that sort of change. And there's lots of reasons that people might choose to participate, to engage with a group. The most notable are usually the benefits. You get something out of it. You get that discount. Why do people join the NRA? It's not just for the common good, but it's for the social benefits of belonging to that organization. It's because they get the magazine. It's because they get invited to training programs. They have access to the cartoon educational videos to show their kids. Whatever those benefits might be, and you can start to think of the reasons that you might join a group. My default position is to always fall back to the group that most all of you know if you came through a local high school, which is Spanish Club. So why do people join Spanish Club? There's lots of different reasons that you might do so. Maybe you join Spanish Club because you want the fiesta at the end of the semester. You want the t-shirt that you can only get if you're a member of the Spanish Club. Those are benefits that you might get. Maybe you join Spanish Club because your friends are in Spanish Club, because that person that you have an interest in getting to know maybe a little bit better is in Spanish Club, and you need to go and join to engage with them. We would call that a solidary or a social benefit. Maybe, and you know this person, right? They join Spanish Club because they love Spanish. They want to study Spanish culture. They want to speak Spanish all the time. They will tell you stories about how they're going to go to college, and then they're going to go study abroad in Barcelona, and they say it with the silly little Barcelona lisp. Um, they get this purpose of benefit. They really do believe in it. So lots of different benefits that can be out there. The other main reason that people might join is that they get asked to join or pressured to join, and if that's in a negative sense and rather than a positive sense, we might call that guilt or coercion. Maybe the reason that you join Spanish Club is that your Spanish teacher is the sponsor of Spanish Club, and it is made known to you that if you want to get an A in Spanish class and save that GPA, that you have to be a part of Spanish Club. They guilt you into it. If well, my favorite example of this is NPR, public television, public radio. When it's pledge drive time, they're trying to take donations and contributions. They like to offer the benefits. You can get the tote bag or the coffee mug. But really, what they want you to do is think about how much value you get out of it, and that if you're not paying your contribution, then you should feel bad about that you're not pulling your weight. So, collective action, broad theory, gives us the idea of why people would join groups and what groups are really organized to do. So, groups are everywhere. So, when we start to think about the idea of a group itself, what we need to constitute a group is really it's fairly simple. We need really two different elements. We need elites, and we need we can call those leaders, and we need mass publics, and we can call those folks followers. You have to have leaders and you have to have followers. If you have followers without a leader, then you don't really have followers. If you have a leader and they don't have a group of followers following them, they're not really a leader, right? So the idea here is that to have one, you have to have the other, and they form this relationship. Followers have to be there to provide support, and leaders have to provide, for lack of a better word, leadership. So I think this is sometimes easiest to think about in like an economic sense. Um, when we think of leaders in, say, mobile technology or mobile phones, we'll often think of like Apple as one of the leaders. Why is it that Apple gets to be like the market leader? Why are they like the grandpa of smartphones? And it's because they have people that are Apple fans that are willing to go out and drop $1,000 on that newest phone. And Apple gets to remain the leader as long as they can continue to have people support them. Well, the reason that they have people support them is that Apple provides leadership in terms of the field, in terms of the product. You might not like Apple, you might love Apple, it doesn't really matter. Enough people like them that they're willing to invest in the product and recognize the product for whatever reason. And it could be that Apple is just that easy to use. They make it kind of idiot proof. It's the most secure. It can be the most private. Apple is innovative. They realize that you did not want a headphone jack on your phone anymore. You didn't know that you didn't want a headphone jack until Apple made it clear that that would be really bad. That you really wanted is a separate dongle that you have to buy. You didn't know that you wanted a proprietary charging cable that costs, 3 or 4 times as much until Apple showed you that you needed it. They provided that leadership, and enough people provide the support in terms of they actually buy the product to make it work. If is there something that Apple could do that would drive people away? I have no idea. But conceivably it could happen. You might have said Samsung was a leader until their phones started, melting and catching on fire in people's pockets. And yet here we are. Samsung still has plenty of folks who are willing to buy their product. So, leaders can stretch it. And it's up to the followers to decide if they want to continue to follow. So, in this situation, leaders leading, followers following, as long as you have these two working together, then you have a group, and groups can be absolutely everywhere. Society unto itself, in theory, is a group of leaders. Would be like our political leaders making rules, and then we follow and abide by those rules. You can think of it in political parties. Take one step down. Donald Trump gets to provide leadership and say this is what the Republican Party stands for, and as long as rank and file Republicans continue to vote for him, he remains a leader, and then the group itself remains viable. We talked about different, social interest groups. You can start to think of elements of just modern day society, religious institutions, classrooms. This is one of the few situations where I get to be considered an elite. Uh, but in any particular class, right? There's if I don't give you the material that you want and need, then word gets around. Nobody takes my classes anymore, and this group that is like Shipley's government class falls apart. Sports teams, book clubs, jobs, all of them have leaders and followers, and all of them have to work together. I'm going to see if this actually plays and gives you some audio, but there's this, I can give you the great version of this here real quick, and I'll see if it actually pops up in the video itself.
So ladies and gentlemen, at TED, we talk a lot about leadership and how to make a movement. So let's watch a movement happen, start to finish, in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons from it. First, of course, you know, a leader needs the guts to stand out and be ridiculed. But what he's doing is so easy to follow. So here's his first follower with a crucial role. He's going to show everyone else how to follow. Now notice that the leader embraces him as an equal. So now it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Now there he is calling to his friends. Now if you notice that the first follower is actually an underestimated form of leadership in itself. It takes guts to stand out like that. The first follower is what transforms a lone nut into a leader. And here comes a second follower. Now it's not a lone nut, it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. So a movement must be public. It's important to show not just the leader, but the followers, because you find that new followers emulate the followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, and immediately after, 3 more people. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point. Now we've got a movement. So, notice that as more people join in, it's less risky. So those that were sitting on the fence before now have no reason not to. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, but they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. So, over the next minute, you'll see all of the those that prefer to stick with the crowd, because eventually they would be ridiculed for not joining in. And that's how you make a movement. But let's recap some lessons from this. So, first, if you are the type, like the shirtless dancing guy, that is standing alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals. So it's clearly about the movement, not you. Okay, but we might have missed the real lesson here. The biggest lesson, if you noticed, did you catch it? Is that leadership is over-glorified. That yes, it was the shirtless guy was first, and he'll get all the credit. But it was really the first follower that transformed the lone nut into a leader. So as we're told that we should all be leaders, that would be really ineffective. If you really care about starting a movement, have the courage to follow and show others how to follow. And when you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first one to stand up and join in. And what a perfect place to do that, TED. Thanks.
So yeah, the stupid shirtless dancing guy video is one of my favorites, and it gives you that idea: leaders and followers. You can't have one without the other. Both are essential. And in the absence, we always think of like elites as running the show, but in the absence of those early followers and followers in mass, leaders are just they're the lone nut. Elites don't get to be elite without our support. So this is groups. All right, let's go. There we go. So what we have here is, you can imagine that green circle there is one group in society, right? But society is made up of lots of different groups. So they can be big, small, they can come in different shapes and sizes and colors. And we've got some blue groups there. Those might be Democratic or liberal. Red groups might be conservative or Republican. You might have green groups, environmental, lots of different shades of gray up there. Groups don't have to necessarily be political. And let's just keep adding and adding and adding, and society has all of these different groups, right? And here's something that's new. We haven't seen it before. We have got some groups up here at the top that are overlapping. You can start to imagine maybe that red group, red conservative, maybe that's your gun owners. You've got the green, maybe environmentalists, and then the gray, some sort of non-political. Maybe that's your vegetarians or something like that. So you can start to imagine a situation, right, where you have environmentalists who are also gun owners. Those would be your hunters. So this is your Teddy Roosevelt, right? We need to create national parks so that Teddy Roosevelt has some public land that he can go shoot things on. You might also have your environmentalists who are also vegetarians. Those are going to be some of your animal rights folks. And then you can have your environmentalists who are just environmentalists. And you can have your gun rights people who are not environmentalists. You can have your vegetarians who are not environmentalists as well. So you can start to have some of that overlap. And you can start to imagine that people belong to different groups. So you might, here's Amy. And Amy is a gun rights activist, so she belongs to the NRA. Somehow Amy is also over here. Let's say she's a Democrat, because there's plenty of gun rights folks who are also Democrats. And she works downtown at, an office downtown. And shops, I don't know, big and green. Maybe she shops at Whole Foods, something like that. So here's Ben. So Ben is your environmentalist vegetarian. And he also works downtown at some sort of small firm. And what we're wondering here is what do Amy and Ben have in common? Well, based on what we can see here, they may have some friends in common. So it could be that some of those gun rights folks that Amy knows from the local NRA chapter host a party or get married or something like that, and they invite Amy. They might also, because of their environmental work, be friendly with Ben. And Amy and Ben get to know each other. Maybe they meet at the party. Probably not, at the, meat station, but maybe over at the salad part of the dinner. And they get to talking, and they get to realize that they do have some stuff in common. They work in buildings next door to each other. And it turns out maybe the next week, now that they know who they're looking for, that when Ben is going and doing his shopping, because they live in a similar place, maybe they both end up at the same grocery store. They both shop at the Whole Foods. So these things that we have in common, even though we have these differences, right? Amy and Ben, in our political understanding of the world, shouldn't have much in common. That if we say that Democrats and Republicans don't get along together, Amy and Ben would fit that mold. But it turns out they share friends in common. They work in a similar place. They shop at a similar place. They probably have similar issues that they're facing. They probably have similar complaints. They both dislike the potholes on the street out in front of their job. The chances are their kids are going to end up in similar schools. They're going to live in similar neighborhoods. They're probably living in the same town. They're going to worry about taxes and local issues that are going on in their local community. And the idea with groups is that we can belong to lots of different groups. And as we belong to lots of those different groups, we're interacting with lots of different people. And we call these sorts of interactions and these differences within people and across groups, we call these cross-cutting cleavages. So we are multi-issue people, we're multidimensional, all of us are, and we interact with different people depending on what outfit, what hat we're wearing at any given time. So when we start to get to know these people from different backgrounds and start to recognize them, and you all can think of this, you work with a set of people, you go to school with a set of people, you might practice your religion with a different set of people, you maybe hang out on weekends with another set of people, you might belong to a sports team or a book club or an online community. And all of them have different politics and different issues and different backgrounds, and we can find people that we share commonalities with, even in these diverse sorts of situations. As we start to build those relationships, we start to realize that while we may have different politics, we're not all that different. We're still human. We still want the same basic things in life. We want a roof over our head. We want food on our table. We want to be treated with dignity and respect. We want to be able to, live a happy and fulfilling life. So that trust that we can build in knowing that while we may have differences of opinion, we're still in the same boat, we call that social capital. And that is the grease on the gears that make democracy work. No matter how much we disagree about this or that, there's a whole world of things out there that we can all get along with regard to. We're all in this same boat together. The other thing that we have going on in these groups is it's not just that groups can be overlapping and groups can overlap all over the place. It's that groups can be big to the point that they have smaller groups that emerge within them. So this is, we call it the size paradox. You can have a group that gets so big that you can start to have internal divisions and conflicts, and political parties do this a lot. So the Democratic Party, if I'm using this as an example, we say in modern America that labor unions tend to be considered democratic. Well, labor unions are workers who, especially in like big manufacturing sorts of industries. Also, in the Democratic Party, tend to be environmentalists. Well, labor union workers and environmentalists tend to have different things that they want to prioritize. Environmentalists want to protect the environment. Labor unions, because they're usually talking about jobs in industry and in factories, are usually less concerned about the environment. They want more production, which usually means more pollution, more use of those environmental resources. Yet we put them all in the same category. The Republican Party does this as well. You have libertarians in the Republican Party. You have those folks who say we want government to stay out of our business. Also in the Republican Party are kind of the more traditional moral conservatives who want to be involved in things like who you're allowed to spend evenings with in your bedroom, and what you're allowed to do in the privacy of your own home, and what sorts of things a woman is allowed to talk about with her medical provider. That's the sort of stuff that is a big government intervention, and yet moral conservatives and these libertarian, less government conservatives have tended to coexist within the same political party. So it can make for some strange bedfellows. And this is our size paradox going on. Sometimes those divisions get to the point where they are at the breaking point and can cause problems within the larger group. And yet, whatever group it is that we're talking about, they all generally function the same way. The idea here, let's get it going, is that groups are run by leaders. They're the ones who are going to provide the ideas. They're the ones who are going to provide the efforts to keep the group organized. And leaders are only as strong as they have supporters. That they have people that are willing to make donations, who are willing to cast their vote, write letters, make phone calls, sign petitions, show up at protests. So the more supporters the leader has, the more efficient the leader operates, the stronger the group can actually be. So how is it then that pluralism works? Is we have all these groups, they organize to support these leaders. These leaders will then represent the group issues. When we translate this into our idea of representative democracy or representative government, we have all of these leaders then representing these many groups out there, working together, negotiating, wheeling and dealing, trying to make agreements. And the idea is that at the end of the day, the majorities rule. So we typically do that through our political parties. So the political parties are trying to appeal to these different groups. And if they can put together a majority, they're able to push through their agenda. But the idea here is that the majorities shift because we're multidimensional people. This year, I might be much more concerned about my NRA membership and gun rights. But in a few years from now, we might be in some sort of crazy recession, or we might have a global health pandemic going on, and maybe my concerns shift. Maybe I'm less identifying as the NRA member. Maybe I'm more identifying as the person who just got laid off from my job. So, what it is that is driving me can weaken or strengthen or shift over time. So, what is a majority today likely is not going to be a majority tomorrow as those groups shift over time. So, what we have are all these groups working together and a political system that's trying to identify what is enough of a majority coalition to push for a particular agenda. What is it that they can get the groups to agree to push forward? So I'm going to draw us to a close there. This is kind of the theoretical side of pluralism and interest groups. You've got some videos that are on Canvas that are going to be give you a little bit more of the government aspect, and then there's one called "Fighting Goliath," which gives you it's a short story about a group that actually formed in Texas about a decade ago. So that's one of your assignments for this week is to actually watch that and develop some discussion. So at this point, I'm going to sign us off. We'll come back and talk about engagement and then representation and how we pick our political leaders in another video. So best to you all. Have a good one.